There are places where the line between caretaker and captive becomes dangerously thin, where you're locked in with people whose minds have fractured in ways you can't predict. Welcome to Night Encounters. Tonight, we bring you a chilling true story from Dr. Jayla, a psychiatric hospital psychiatrist who faced something far beyond the limits of medicine or reason. These are allegedly true events, and they may change how you see the human mind forever. Let's begin. I've been a psychiatrist for 15 years. In that time, I've treated hundreds of patients with conditions ranging from depression to schizophrenia to dissociative identity disorder. I've seen the human mind break in ways that most people can't imagine. But I've never been afraid of a patient. Not truly afraid. Not until I met Thomas. This happened last year at a private psychiatric facility in upstate New York, where I work as the senior attending physician. We primarily treat high-functioning patients who require intensive therapy but can afford private care. It's not like the state hospitals you see in movies. Our facility is clean, modern, well-staffed. We have gardens, art therapy rooms, a library. It's designed to feel more like a retreat than an institution. Thomas was admitted on a Friday afternoon in March. He was 34 years old, a former software engineer from Manhattan. According to his intake paperwork, he'd been found by his roommate in their apartment, sitting in a bathtub filled with ice water, reciting strings of numbers for 16 hours straight. He'd been missing from work for 5 days. When the paramedics tried to remove him from the tub, he became violent, injuring 2 EMTs before he was finally sedated. His roommate told the intake coordinator that Thomas had been acting strange for weeks, sleeping during the day, staying up all night, talking to himself, covering all the mirrors in their apartment with newspaper. But it had accelerated rapidly in the last few days before he was found. I was assigned as his primary psychiatrist. When I first met Thomas, he seemed surprisingly normal. He was clean, articulate, polite. He answered my questions directly and maintained good eye contact. He apologized for the incident with the EMTs, claiming he didn't remember it. He said he'd been under a lot of stress at work and had experienced some kind of breakdown. "I just need to get my head straight," he told me during our first session. "I need to figure out what's real and what isn't." It seemed like a straightforward case of acute psychosis, probably brought on by stress and sleep deprivation. I prescribed antipsychotics and scheduled daily therapy sessions. For the first week, Thomas was a model patient. He attended group therapy, participated in activities, took his medication without complaint. The staff loved him. He was friendly, helpful, even charming. But I felt uneasy around him. It wasn't anything specific, just this nagging feeling that something was off. The way he looked at me during our sessions, like he was studying me. The way his smile never quite reached his eyes. The way he'd pause mid-sentence sometimes, as if he was listening to something I couldn't hear. During our second week of sessions, I asked him about the incident in the bathtub, about the numbers he'd been reciting. His expression didn't change. I was counting. Counting what? Everything. Atoms. Possibilities. The number of ways things could have been different. He leaned forward slightly. "Do you ever think about that, Dr. Lawrence? How many different versions of this moment exist? How many different choices we could have made that led us here?" I deflected the philosophical question and steered the conversation back to his symptoms, but that feeling in my gut intensified. Something was extremely off about all this. That night, I reviewed the security footage from Thomas's room. We monitored all patient rooms via camera for safety reasons, though we respected privacy during certain hours. What I saw made my skin crawl. At 2:37 a.m., Thomas got out of bed. He walked to the corner of his room, faced the wall, and stood there completely still for 43 minutes. He didn't move, didn't shift his weight, didn't even appear to breathe. He just stood there, facing the wall like a statue. At 3:20 a.m., he returned to bed and went to sleep. I checked the footage from previous nights. Every single night since his admission, Thomas had done the same thing. Same time, same corner, same duration. And none of the night staff had noticed because he always returned to bed before morning rounds. I documented this behavior and brought it up in our next session. Thomas, I noticed on the security footage that you've been standing in the corner of your room at night. Can you tell me why you do that? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled that empty smile. I'm waiting. Waiting for what? For permission to show you what I really am. My heart started pounding, but I kept my voice level. What do you mean by that? Thomas leaned back in his chair, still smiling. You already know, don't you, Dr. Lawrence? You felt it. That little voice in the back of your head telling you that something's wrong with me, that I'm not like your other patients. You're right. I'm not. I felt the sense of imminent danger, of fear creeping into me. Thomas, are you hearing voices? Are you experiencing hallucinations? No. He shook his head slowly. I'm experiencing clarity. For the first time in my life, I understand exactly what I am, what we all are, and soon you will too. I ended the session early and called for a medication review. Thomas's behavior was escalating, and I wanted him under closer observation. But when the nursing staff went to administer his adjusted medication that evening, they found something disturbing. Thomas had been hiding his pills. Not just recent doses, all of them. They found a collection of over 60 pills hidden inside the lining of his mattress. He'd been pretending to take his medication since the day he was admitted. When confronted, Thomas didn't deny it. He just smiled. I need to be clear for what's coming. The medication clouds everything, makes it harder to see. See what? The nurse asked. The patterns, the connections, the truth. He was placed in isolation and put on supervised medication, meaning a staff member had to physically watch him swallow each pill and check his mouth afterward. I increased his sessions to twice daily, trying to understand what was happening in his mind. But Thomas had stopped cooperating. He would sit in silence during our sessions, staring at me with those cold, analytical eyes. Sometimes he'd smile. Sometimes he'd tilt his head, like he was examining an interesting specimen, but he wouldn't talk. Then, on his 18th day at the facility, Thomas broke his silence. I was in my office after hours catching up on paperwork. It was around 8 p.m., and most of the staff had gone home. I heard a knock on my door. Come in. Thomas walked in, wearing his patient-issued clothes, his hands clasped behind his back. He shouldn't have been in that wing of the building. He shouldn't have been out of his room at all. He was supposed to be in isolation. Thomas, what are you doing here? How did you get out of your room? The door was unlocked, he said simply. I walked out. No one stopped me. My hand moved toward the phone on my desk. I need you to go back to your room right now. I'm going to call for assistance. Don't. His voice was sharp, commanding. Not yet. I came to tell you something important. Something you need to hear before it's too late. Every instinct screamed at me to call security, but something in his tone made me pause. He sat down across from me without being invited. I'm not crazy, Dr. Lawrence. I know you think I am. I know what my file says. But I need you to listen to me very carefully. This facility isn't safe. You're not safe. None of us are. Thomas, there's something wrong with this place. He spoke quickly now, urgently. I started noticing it my second day here. Small things at first. The way certain staff members move. The way they look at patients. Like we're food. Like we're experiments. Haven't you noticed? The night shift nurses. They're different. They don't blink as often. Their skin is too pale. Their smiles are too wide. I felt a chill but pushed it aside. This was clearly paranoid delusion. Thomas, you're experiencing paranoia. It's a symptom of your condition. The staff here are highly trained professionals. I've been documenting everything. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket. Times, dates, observations. 3 patients have disappeared since I've been here. Disappeared. The staff says they were transferred, but I've checked the records. There's no paperwork, no discharge summaries. They're just gone. He slid the paper across the desk. Against my better judgment, I looked at it. It was covered in Thomas's cramped handwriting. Names, room numbers, times, detailed observations about staff behavior. It was the work of someone deep in paranoid delusion, finding patterns where none existed. Thomas, I need you to listen to me. You're not well. What you're experiencing is a break from reality. I'm the only one who's seeing reality clearly. His voice rose, and I instinctively reached for the phone. The rest of you are blind. You go through your routines, you follow your protocols, and you don't notice that something is fundamentally wrong here. I pressed the emergency button under my desk. Within seconds, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Thomas heard them too. His expression changed, fear replacing intensity. No, they're coming. I shouldn't have come here. I shouldn't have told you. They're going to... The door burst open and 3 staff members rushed in. They grabbed Thomas, who didn't resist. He just looked at me with these desperate, pleading eyes. Check the basement, Dr. Lawrence. Check the old wing. You'll see. You'll understand. They dragged him out, and I sat there shaking. My supervisor arrived minutes later, apologizing profusely. Apparently, there had been a malfunction with the lock on Thomas's isolation room. He'd simply walked out, and none of the night staff had noticed until my alarm went off. We're moving him to the secure wing, my supervisor said. This won't happen again. I should have felt relieved. I should have felt safe. But Thomas's words kept echoing in my head. Check the basement. Check the old wing. Our facility did have an old wing, the original building from the 1950s that had been renovated and converted into storage. And there was a basement level that housed maintenance equipment and old records. I'd never had reason to go down there, but I couldn't shake the feeling. That same gut instinct that had been warning me about Thomas from the beginning. The next day, I made a decision that I'm still not sure was the right one. During my lunch break, I told the front desk I needed to retrieve some old patient files from storage. They gave me the key to the basement without question. The basement was exactly what you'd expect. Concrete floors, flickering fluorescent lights, the smell of mildew and dust. Rows of filing cabinets lined the walls, and old hospital equipment was stacked in the corners. Nothing unusual, nothing sinister. I was about to leave, feeling foolish for entertaining Thomas's delusions, when I noticed a door at the far end of the basement. It was unmarked, slightly ajar, with a sliver of light coming from inside. My stomach tightened. I should have left. I should have gone back upstairs and forgotten about all of this. but I couldn't. I pushed the door open. The room beyond was small, maybe 10 by 10 feet. The walls were covered in photographs, hundreds of them. Pictures of patients, current patients, recent patients, patients I recognized from years ago. But these weren't official hospital photos. These were candid shots, taken without the subject's knowledge. Patients sleeping, patients in therapy, patients in vulnerable private moments. And in the center of the room was a desk with a laptop. The screen was on, displaying a spreadsheet. I moved closer, my hands trembling. The spreadsheet contained patient names, medications, behavioral notes, and something labeled phase status. Most patients were marked as monitoring, but three names, the three names Thomas had written on his paper, were marked as completed. I felt like I was going to be sick. What did completed mean? What was this room? Who had access to it? I heard footsteps on the stairs. Someone was coming down. I don't know what possessed me, but I grabbed the laptop and ran. I didn't go back through the main basement. I found an emergency exit that led to the outside of the building. I ran to my car, threw the laptop in the passenger seat, and drove. I didn't go home. I went straight to the police station. The laptop contained files, detailed files, on every patient who'd been at the facility in the last 5 years. Medication experiments, behavioral modification protocols, things that were not part of any approved treatment plan, and photos, so many photos. The investigation that followed was extensive. It turned out that 2 staff members, one of the night shift nurses and a medical technician, had been conducting unauthorized research on patients. They'd been manipulating medications, observing the effects, and documenting everything. The 3 patients who'd disappeared had been transferred to other facilities after adverse reactions, and the paperwork had been falsified to cover it up. The facility was shut down within a month. Criminal charges were filed. My career in that institution was over, though I was cleared of any wrongdoing. But here's the thing that still haunts me. Thomas knew. Somehow, impossibly, Thomas knew. He'd been there for less than 3 weeks, had no access to restricted areas, was under constant supervision after his isolation. Yet, he'd figured out what was happening. He'd documented it. He'd tried to warn me. I went to see him after everything came to light. He'd been transferred to a state facility during the investigation. When I walked into the visiting room, he was already sitting there, waiting. He looked different, calmer, more present. "You checked the basement," he said. It wasn't a question. I nodded, sitting down across from him. "How did you know, Thomas? How did you figure it out?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I told you. I can see patterns, connections, things other people miss. It's not psychosis, Dr. Lawrence. It's just perception. I see things as they really are. But the numbers, the ice bath, the standing in the corner, I was trying to quiet my mind, to process everything I was seeing. The world is overwhelming when you can see all the patterns at once, all the possibilities, all the hidden truths." He leaned forward. "I'm sorry I frightened you. I didn't know how else to make you listen. I wanted to tell him that he was still delusional, that what he'd discovered was luck or coincidence. But I couldn't, because he'd been right about everything. The standing in the corner," I asked quietly. "Every night at the same time. What were you really doing?" Thomas smiled, and for the first time, it looked genuine. "I was listening, waiting to hear if they were coming for me, if I'd been marked as one of the completed ones." He paused. "I heard them talking about it. through the vents. The walls in that place were thin. Everyone was so sure the patients couldn't understand, couldn't process what was being said around them. But some of us could. My blood ran cold. You heard them discussing which patients to target? Yes. And I knew if I told anyone directly, I'd just seem more crazy. So I tried to make you notice, make you question, make you investigate. He tilted his head. It worked. Eventually, I left that facility with more questions than answers. Thomas was released 6 months later with a diagnosis of acute stress-induced hypervigilance with paranoid features. Essentially, the trauma of what he'd witnessed and unconsciously processed at the facility had manifested as apparent psychosis. But I don't think that's the whole truth. I think Thomas saw things the rest of us couldn't or wouldn't see. I think he perceived reality at a level that looked like madness to everyone else. I left psychiatric care after that. I couldn't trust the system anymore. Couldn't trust my colleagues. Couldn't trust my own judgment. If I'd missed something so massive happening in my own facility, what else was I missing? I work in research now, far away from patient care. It's safer, less personal. But sometimes, late at night, I think about Thomas standing in that corner, listening, waiting, seeing patterns the rest of us were blind to. And I wonder what else I'm not seeing. What other truths are hiding in plain sight, invisible to those of us who've trained ourselves not to look too closely? Thomas sent me a letter last month, just one line. The patterns are everywhere, Dr. Lawrence. Once you learn to see them, you can never stop. I burned the letter, but I can't burn the words out of my mind, because I'm starting to see patterns too, in my daily life, in my colleagues' behaviors, in the structure of the institutions we trust. And once you start seeing them, Thomas was right. You can't ever stop. I don't know if that makes things better or worse. I don't know if Thomas is brilliant or broken or both. I don't know if I saved him or if he saved me. All I know is that sometimes the people we label as insane are the only ones brave enough to see the truth. And that terrifies me more than anything else. The walls of psychiatric hospitals hold many secrets. Sometimes the greatest danger isn't the patients. It's the blindness of those who refuse to see what's right in front of them. These stories remind us that reality is often more disturbing than any delusion, that the line between caretaker and threat can blur in ways we never expect, and that sometimes the ones we lock away see things the rest of us are too afraid to acknowledge. If you have a true, original story you'd like to submit to be featured in a future video, please email us at nightencounterstories@gmail.com. We want to hear your encounters, the moments that changed how you see the world, the experiences that still haunt you, the truths you can't forget. Thank you for watching Night Encounters. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we never see coming.